Don't you hate it when you're trying to read your friend's post and it makes no sense at all because they didn't use any punctuation? Welcome to Correcting the Internet. I'm Mrs. Teacher. Today we're looking at the comma. The comma is one of the most important punctuation marks for getting your meaning across. But did you know, in the beginning of written language, when the alphabet was first invented, they wrote stuff without using any punctuation or even spaces between the words. In the beginning of writing, alphabets were used to record texts that had previously been passed down orally.
He buggered off. So he has, he's scarpered.
Brave Sir Robin ran away.
No!
Bravely ran away, away.
I didn't.
When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his tail
No!
and fled. Yes, brave Sir Robin turned about
I
and
didn't.
gallantly he chickened out. Bravely taking
I
to
never
his
did.
feet, he beat a very brave retreat.
Oh, lies.
Bravest of the brave Sir
I
Robin.
never.
In the 3rd century BC, a Greek scholar invented a way of using dots to show the reader how long to pause. The mid-level dot was called comma in ancient Greek. And although it's now a little curvy guy instead of a mid-level dot, it's still called the comma and it's still used in kind of the same way. When you were in grade 2, you probably learned that you should insert a comma into your writing every time you would pause if you were speaking. While that might help you to decide when you're not sure, it's not a rule. Here are some of the most common rules that you should remember about the comma. First, in lists. If you list more than 2 items, you should insert a comma between each item. That brings us to the Oxford comma. There's a vicious debate raging over whether or not you should use a comma before the penultimate item in a list before the and. This comma is called the Oxford comma. And no matter where you stand on the Oxford comma debate, if it will make your writing more clear, you should use it. Second, to separate clauses. In English, commas are used to separate a dependent clause from an independent clause, and to separate an embedded clause from a main clause. But don't use a comma to separate 2 independent clauses. This is called a comma splice, and if you do it, you might go to punctuation prison. 2 independent clauses should be separated by a semicolon or by a coordinating conjunction. There is some debate as to whether you should add a comma before a coordinating conjunction. As with an Oxford comma, if a comma here would make your sentence more clear, use it. Third, after conjuncts at the beginnings of sentences. Conjuncts, or linking words, are used to show how a sentence is linked to the sentence before it. Some examples are therefore, however, and nevertheless. If you use a conjunct at the beginning of your sentence or in the middle of your sentence, you should separate it with a comma. If you use a conjunct in the middle of a sentence, you should separate it on both sides by commas. Fourth, parentheticals. Parentheticals are phrases that are added to a sentence to give it more information. Parentheticals could also be separated by parentheses. Fifth, before quotations. If you're introducing recorded speech with a speech tag, you should separate the speech tag with a comma. However, if you're using a quotation to support an assertion you've made, you should introduce it with a colon. Of course, these are not the only ways commas are used. If you're not sure about whether to put a comma in your writing or not, you can look at one of my favorite websites, OWL Purdue, or you can even look up comma on Wikipedia. Both these links can be found in the description below the video. And now for today's sentence challenge. I challenge you to write a sentence for me in the comments below and to use a comma correctly. If your sentence is good, I'll share it in an upcoming video. But be careful, because if you write something silly, I will make fun of you. See See you next time. This is Correcting the Internet. I'm Mrs. Teacher.